Test. Good morning, everyone. If you could please make your way to your seat, we're going to get started here in just a couple minutes. All right, good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to the Hayes-Caldwell Economic Development Partnership Economic Outlook for 2025. This is the 14th edition of this event, and on behalf of the Hayes-Caldwell EDP, we're thrilled to have such an impressive gathering of business leaders, policymakers, educators, and community stakeholders joining us today. The Hayes-Caldwell Economic Development Partnership is a 501c6 economic development organization, and we serve Hayes and Caldwell counties and all the communities located here. HCEDP promotes and markets the two-county region to attract new employers, assist existing companies, and with expansions, fosters entrepreneurial growth, and ensures the continued development of our skilled workforce. Our objective with the Economic Outlook is to share a program that provides a complete perspective on the challenges and opportunities of the current economic environment on a national, state, regional, and hopefully local scale. Today, you'll hear from an outstanding lineup of speakers who will share insights into economic trends in 2025. They'll explore emerging industries, workforce development, infrastructure challenges, and how we can position Hayes and Caldwell counties as economic powerhouses for the years to come. Of course, none of that would be possible without our wonderful sponsors for today's event. I'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors. Today's corporate sponsors are La Cima, absolutely, Hill & Wilkinson, and Frost Bank. Our supporting sponsors today are Ozona Bank, BVRT, Benchmark Insurance, Kimley Horn, Texas State University, Fuse Architects, Buda Economic Development Corporation, Southwest Engineers, Headwater, Kyle Economic Development, Chuck Nash Auto Group, Christus Santa Rosa Hospital, Kleinfelder, J.E. Dunn, and Texas Regional Bank. Thank you all for your support today. We're also supported by numerous public and private sector investors who are here, so thank you for your support of HCEDP throughout the years. We do have a number of elected officials today. I did my best to find you all. If I missed you, I apologize. But with us today, Hayes County Judge Ruben Becerra, Caldwell County Commissioner Ed Terrio, the Mayor of San Marcos, Jane Hewson, Mayor of Kyle, Travis Mitchell, Kyle City Council members Miguel Zuniga and Bear Heiser, the Mayor of Wimberley, Jim Childs, Council member from City of Buda, Monica Davidson, Hayes County Commissioner Morgan Hammer just walked in, so noticed you. and Miguel Arredondo with the San Marcos CISD Board of Trustees. Welcome all of you to the event. So without further ado, we're going to start this. I'd like to invite Dr. Kelly Danfus to the stage to welcome you to Texas State University. This is the first time we've held this event here. We're very happy and pleased to be here. So turn it over to you, Dr. Danfus.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This is the last day for my bull mustache, by the way, so enjoy it while you can. I've got a meeting with the chancellor tomorrow morning. I got to get clean shaven for that, but we're excited about what's happening with, I know the mustache is great. I'm going to miss it. Welcome to Texas State and the 2025 Economic Outlook Summit. We're so glad to host you here today. Classes begin next week, so it's a little quiet on campus. We actually have a new student orientation is happening today for new freshmen who are coming here. We actually have a record new freshman January class, the biggest January freshman class we've ever had before. It's kind of unusual for people to start in January, but it happens sometimes. This summit underscores the importance of shaping the future of our region through workforce development and quality education, two things that are very important to Texas State. And at Texas State, we take great pride in partnering with you on that. The I-35 corridor between San Antonio and Austin is projected to double by 2025, surpassing Houston and DFW metroplexes combined. This next great American metroplex inspires us to rise to the challenge. Texas State is at the heart of this growth, and our San Marcos campus between the 7th and 10th largest U.S. cities, and our Round Rock campus is strategically bookending Austin as well. We're preparing graduates to meet the evolving workforce demands while building a research enterprise that fuels innovation and keeps Texas competitive globally. Here are just a few of the highlights that have happened in the past a year that you might or may not know about. Research milestone. For the first time ever, we set a record on research grants that came into the university, $165 million in research and development. I see our Vice President for Research over here celebrating that. Well on his way to setting another record this coming year. That sets us well on our track to becoming a Research One university by 2027, which is the highest ranking of research universities that exist out there. Transformational giving. We ended our capital campaign and fundraising this year, $275 million. Our goal was $250 million, but we set it at $275 million. Much of those funds are going towards scholarships for helping our students get from here to there. Record enrollment. We had over 40,000 students for the first time this year and set records in many categories like the number of freshmen, almost 8,500 freshmen this year. I know there's a lot of our alumni here from Texas State or Southwest Texas State that may remember when there were 8,500 students here. I'm not going to point out who I think those people are, but can you imagine having now 8,500 freshmen? We are on a path to having 10,000 freshmen here. That is our goal, ultimately, to have 10,000 freshmen here and 50,000 students before too long. Not all of them will be here in San Marcos. Many will be in Round Rock, and some of them will be online and taking classes at community colleges around the state as well. Enrollment, by the way, at our Round Rock campus increased 24%. For the first time, we had almost 100 freshmen at our Round Rock campus. We have 1,000 applications for our Round Rock campus for freshmen this coming year. So that's really exciting to see the growth that's happening up there. Athletic excellence. We secured our back-to-back bowl wins for the first time in our history. We've gone to bowls. And by the way, the viewership numbers just came out. 1.7 million people watched that game. It was a Friday. It was a work day on a Friday, a game that started at 3 o'clock, and we were the second highest viewed group of five team that was out there being watched on TV. So it was exciting to see. People want to see the Bobcats in action. Collaborative partnerships. We partnered with Austin Community College and Collin College to increase access to a four-year college degree. And what we're doing in Collin College is very exciting. Students there are taking their first 2 years at Collin College, and then for their third and fourth year, instead of coming to San Marcos or to Round Rock, they're actually staying at Collin College and getting their degree from Texas State while living at home and going to the same campus they've been going to the first 2 years. We are now not just expecting students to come to San Marcos or to Round Rock, we are taking Texas State to the state as well and beyond. Academic growth, we introduced 41 online degree programs for the first time this fall. We have over 500 students in this program. We had 0 a year ago this time, over 500 students now taking exclusively online programming from Texas State University. Global impact. For the first time, we're opening a international campus. The first one will be in Querétaro, Mexico. This fall, we have already 50 students enrolled in that program. We are in discussion with universities across the world as well, in Italy, and Spain, and Scotland, Japan, and India, and more to come. Prestigious honors as well. Became the 5th public university in Texas to establish the Phi Beta Kappa chapter, which is the most prestigious honor society in America. Campus expansion continues. Eric Elgo here is busy hammering nails into things and screwing things together. A new classroom building in the Round Rock campus that is starting, Esperanza Hall. A leading-edge STEM building is currently under construction. A new residence hall is being constructed as well. And we just, I think, closed bids on $250 million housing project, Hilltop 2. We will soon be able to house 12,000 students on our campus, and we're excited about that as well. Faculty and staff investment have made significant progress in making this a great place to serve at this university, increasing salaries and the number of employees here as well. Beth and I love living in this town. We're excited to be part of the San Marcos community, this community between San Antonio and Austin, the place that we now call home. We're proud to have you all here, and we can't wait to learn more from our guest speaker today as well. So thank you so much for being here at Texas State.
I don't know. I think you should keep the mustache. All right, well, thank you, Dr. Damphus. It's an exciting time to be in San Marcos, but Texas State as well. And Texas State has been such a wonderful partner in economic development and to us since our inception, so thank you, Texas State. So now I'd like to invite to the stage our keynote speaker, Dr. Luis Torres, who's a senior business economist for the Federal Reserve Bank in Dallas, San Antonio branch. Before I read on, yes, we had the weather forced us to change our speaker at the last minute. Luckily, Dr. Torres was available, and I'm very excited to hear what he said. So we're dealing with the weather, but he's still going to be a fantastic Fed representative. So Torres joined the Dallas Fed in 2022, performing research analysis on issues impacting Texas, Mexico, and the U.S.-Mexico border. Torres received his bachelor's degree in economics from the Monterey Institute of Technology, a master's in economics from the University of Texas at El Paso, and his PhD from the University of Colorado. Prior to joining Dallas Fed, he served as a research economist at the Texas Real Estate Research Center at Texas A&M University, studying regional economies, developing economic indicators, and researching real estate markets. I want to thank him again for being available here on such short notice, but everyone please give a warm welcome to Dr. Luis Torres.
So something I learned in A&M when I was there for almost 10 years is the famous howdy. So it's a pleasure to be here with all of you. This is an important event for the community and also for the Dallas Fed. You know, previous years, previous colleagues have been here, have had the opportunity to speak. Like Mike mentioned, the weather played a role. I should be in Washington, D.C. right now, but I couldn't be there because of the weather. Instead, I'm here, I'm home in Texas, and it's great to be here with all of you. So just to talk about what's happening with the Texas economy, the outlook, right? We're definitely slowing down. If you were to see me speak at the start of the year, a year ago, right, the clear indication was that, yes, we are definitely slowing down, right? The good news is that also inflation is coming down, right? Still not at the target level that our central bank, that the Fed has at 2%, but it's definitely coming down. The other good news is the strength of the economy. I think what surprised us all, is still surprising us all, right, is how resilient and strong the economy has been. Yes, we're slowing down, but still overall positive, strong U.S. economy, Texas economy, and local economies in the state of Texas. Excuse me. So what's new? So in November, these are the latest numbers for the Texas employment numbers. Texas employment increased slightly, not a strong number, but still faster than we saw in October. what's interesting, normally we grow at a higher rate than does the rest of the country, or the U.S. Right now, the U.S. actually grew at a higher rate than us. Our forecast for 2024, how is employment in Texas going to end? Around 1.6% is going to grow. That's below trend, by the way. Normally in Texas, we grow around 2% annually. So we're going to grow below our 2% annual trend at 1.6%. The forecast was around 2.1%. That was around trend. And year to date right now, we're around 1.6%, and we're still above the U.S. level. So we're still growing above what we're seeing compared to the rest of the country. I mean, it's kind of stuck. Oops, I don't know what happened. Okay, so unemployment rate. The other thing, like unemployment rate right now continues to be low, around 4.2%. Same unemployment rate here in Texas than in the country. And from our surveys. So the Dallas Fed does an array of surveys that we go directly and ask businesses, Texas business, what they're seeing in the Texas economy, what they're seeing in their operations, what's their outlook for the economy. So this comes actually from our surveys, from our manufacturing surveys, and from our service sector. And right now, the manufacturing sector remains flat. Why is that? The slowdown in the economy, while the service sector continues to expand. And what's interesting, what we did in the latest survey is we asked them their outlook for the next 6 months. So really positive, good news. What did Texas companies, manufacturing and services companies saw in the next 6 months? Right there, they saw greater general economic conditions leading to greater operating margins. So demand, they see a strong demand for the next 6 months. So that's good news for the outlook for 2025. Excuse me, So overall economic activity, this is Texas employment. This is month over month. We have the different sectors in the Texas economy. U.S. is red, Texas is blue. As I mentioned earlier, we grew at a slower rate than the rest of the nation in November. What we have there in the bottom are the different industries, and in parentheses is the composition of those jobs. So what does it mean that trade and transportation utility has 20%? That 20% means 20% of the jobs in Texas are trade and transportation jobs. But overall, if you look at those blue lines, overall job growth is still solid. Right, we're slowing down, but still solid growth, solid employment growth in the state of Texas. Slower than the U.S. in the month of November. How about year to date? Again, I mentioned this earlier. Year to date, blue is Texas. That's us. We're growing still at a higher rate than the rest of the country. Their overall blue lines are still positive growth. So that shows you it's still solid growth, although it's at a slower rate of growth rate. So overall, in all the major industries in the state of Texas, we're still growing, but at a slower rate. So that's good. Now, just comparing through the years, us to the rest of the nation, Texas is the blue bars. As you can see, we normally grow higher than the rest of the country, right? But now what's happening is we're slowing down, right? We're kind of reaching the same level of growth as the U.S. economy, but still are achieving a higher rate of growth. How about GDP growth? Still strong GDP growth. This is annualized 4.9, 5.9%. That's a lot of growth. Still strong, solid economic growth that we're observing in the Texas economy and the U.S. economy. Comparing the MSAs here, right? Which MSAs are leading the growth in Texas? Right now, it's Fort Worth and Houston. Why? Houston more due to the energy part of it, oil and gas. Fort Worth, manufacturing, although manufacturing is kind of slowing down, but still achieving a higher rate of growth. Austin Tech, the slower rate. Austin services, some type of services are slowing, manufacturing, and Houston. But the reason why Houston is growing at a higher rate than the rest of the state, is because of the oil and gas prices in the Houston MSA. But still, overall, you see that strong growth. Unemployment, look at the unemployment rate, still really low, 4.2% for the country, for Texas, still maintaining a level. It's been increasing slightly, but still remains at a very low level. Unemployment claims. Look at the unemployment claims. Basically have not increased. That shows you the strength that still exists in our labor market. This is U.S. and Texas. Unemployment rates have not actually ticked down slightly. They remain low. Now, from our surveys. So our surveys are great. Why are they great? Because they're timely and useful and reliable. As you know, data lags behind. As I mentioned earlier, I had the numbers for November for employment, but the surveys, we have more timely information, and we go out and ask directly companies what they're observing, what's happening with production, what's happening with revenue, what's happening with employment, what's their outlook. This is basically manufacturing production for Texas companies and revenue. How do you interpret the graph? It's a diffusion index. What do I mean? If you're above zero, you're expanding. If you're below zero, you're contracting. What are those red dotted lines? That's the historical average for services, the red line, and the blue line is the average historical for manufacturing. So what's happening right now? Both of them, the red and blue line, are above zero. What does that mean? Texas manufacturing and Texas services are expanding at this moment, companies, production and revenue, but they're below the historical trend. So it's, like I mentioned earlier, we're growing, but at a slower rate, okay? And that comes from our surveys. Really useful information. How about real estate, finance, and energy? Again, we saw what happened, right? Again, the real estate sector is really sensitive to changes in interest rates. So what happened when our central bank, the Federal Reserve, started raising rates, right? Because of the inflation issue we had, right? Well, what happened? The first sector that's been hurt the most has been real estate, and one sector has been the housing market, of course, right? Of course, interest rates play a major role in determining if you're going to buy a house or not, right? As you can see, what's happening currently, right? Unfortunately, interest rates have, although we're in an easing policy, right? Monetary policy easing part of it right now for the central bank. Mortgage rates still remain high, right? They haven't come down, but we've seen some improvements in the housing market. The permits kind of have increased. Texas home sales, the blue line, you can see kind of reached a trough and are coming back. But unfortunately, interest rates remain high. And until mortgage rates start to come down, the 30-year mortgage rates, we're not going to see an improvement in the housing market. How about housing prices? Well, right now they rose in October. They've been flat. Why have they been flat? Again, economics 101, supply and demand, right? If the economy, if there's no demand, supply was an issue, but it's adjusted. And then prices have been stable in the Texas housing market. These are the four major markets. You see some increases, but right now they're stable. Of course, we could talk about what happened previously during the pandemic, lower historical mortgage rates, strong demand that increased those prices. But right now, they were flat and kind of increasing somewhat. How about apartment rents? Apartment rates are still kind of flat, in some cases negative, especially if you see the case of Austin, right? That's Dallas, but in some cases still positive. Houston and also San Antonio kind of stable. How about office vacancy rates? One sector that also was really affected after the pandemic. Why? Working from home, all these changes, right? What's happening? The office vacancies are still at the high levels. They tipped down into Houston, Fort Worth, and Austin. Texas oil sector still strong, right? I mentioned the numbers for the employment part of it. The outlook, we have another survey, our energy survey. It's a great survey that tells you what's happening in our energy sector here in the great state of Texas. I would recommend you read it. Positive outlook for 2025 by the energy sector. From our survey, not from us, from our survey participants, they mentioned they're expecting the price of oil in 2025 at the end around $71. But still, their outlook is a positive one for 2025. Natural gas production, oil production. Loan volumes, what's happening? We have another survey where we go out and ask directly local banks what's happening with loans. Right now, overall loan volumes are down in November, according to Electric Bankers. All of them, like even the only one that's not, it's the commercial real estate actually went up, but the rest of the loans are actually still down. How about Texas banks reporting? This is from our survey also. It's an index. If you're above zero, you're expanding. If you're below zero, you're contracting. What are Texas banks telling us to regard to credit tightening? They're still mentioning, they're reporting credit tightening in their banks. What's the outlook for 2024? This is our forecast, I mentioned earlier, still positive. We're going to end up with 1.6% growth rate in 2024, below our 2% range. It's kind of stabilizing. Rate of business formation in Texas still is at a high level, and still remains faster than the nation. Right? It ticked down, but still, look at that level, historical level. That blue line is Texas. That's the rate of business formation. Look at it right now. Yes, it has like a 6 off, but still the levels, the trend is positive, and it's still higher than the nation. So we're creating more business here in Texas than the rest of the country. I like this a lot. This is from a survey. Share of firms reporting increase in wage ticks up while prices tick down. So still companies are expecting wage increases, right? But prices from their selling prices actually are coming down. They're stabilizing. That's good news in the inflation front. Excuse me. How about inflation? Again, I mentioned earlier, inflation is coming down. This is Texas CPI. It's moving on the right direction. Still high, 2.7%, the core CPI. Why do we look at core instead of just overall CPI? Because core is a better measure of the overall trend in inflation, still at 2.7%, above the goal of 2%. But still, you can see the trend coming down. And I wanted to show you at the end what I mentioned earlier, our surveys. These are great surveys. Why? Great information, sources of information. Why? Because this comes directly from the horse's mouth, right? These are Texas companies. What do they see in the coming 6 months? So we asked them, what do you see in the coming 6 months? And 60% of Texas firms expect greater demand over the 6 months. That's a really positive outlook going forward in 2025 to start the year. Of those who are expecting the greater demand, of those 60%, what is the reason why? And this is really good news also. The majority attributed to the increase to a more economic climate. So a more positive economic climate, that's why they're seeing that, they're expecting that increase in demand in the next 6 months. And that, if you could compare it to last year to this year, so that's a big increase. The ones that expect less demand, they see it coming from the industry-specific conditions as well as the overall economy. And also, good news, relative to the last 2 years, fewer firms are reporting a decrease in operating margins. So they're not saying that our margins are decreasing. On the contrary, right? So fewer firms are seeing see that better outlook for their operations down the road. And again, what are they expecting in margins? They're expecting our margins to increase over the next 6 months. And that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Torres, for that presentation. I know we're incredibly bullish on this corridor in Texas and the Texas Triangle in general, so I think we're all very happy to be where we are in the country, outperforming it as a whole. So thank you very much. Next on our program is a panel of economic development and legislative experts to discuss economic development efforts for the upcoming 89th Texas legislative session. Panelists, please make your way to the stage as I introduce you. Our first panelist is Gabriela Perticizzi. Gabriela serves as a Vice President of Policy at the Texas Association of Business. In this role, she spearheads initiatives including economic development, energy, and natural resources, financial services, and federal affairs. With a decade of experience in legislative policy and government relations at both the state and federal levels, Gabriella has proven track record of building strategic relationships and crafting innovative policy solutions. Our next panelist is Tony Bennett. Tony is the president and CEO of the Texas Association of Manufacturers, a position he has held since 2012. TAM gives voice to more than 600 small and large companies in the state capitol, as well as in Washington, D.C., working to keep Texas pro-growth and competitive for manufacturing. Mr. Bennett's career spans more than 3 decades of experience in government and public affairs and served as a former executive at Temple Inland, bringing firsthand manufacturing company experience to his role. Our final panelist is Aaron Demerson. Aaron is the president and CEO of the Texas Economic Development Corporation. TXEDC is an independent 501c3 that strategically partners and markets Texas, both domestically and internationally, as a premier business destination for companies looking to locate, relocate, and/or expand their existing business footprint. Prior to his position, Aaron served as commissioner representing employers for the Texas Workforce Commission. Prior to his employment, he led activities as director of Office of Employer Initiatives at the TWC. And before that, Mr. Demerson served as senior advisor to then Governor Rick Perry and executive director of the Economic Development and Tourism Division in the governor's office. Texas EDC has a short video that they'd like to play while I get settled.
Texas is booming.
Boom in Texas is fueled by what some are calling the Great Business Migration. Company is not just coming, it's already here.
Thousands of workers are busy creating the latest Tesla models. Samsung is considering building more semiconductor facilities in Central Texas.
Texas is leading the nation in population growth.
Texas is the future of America.
Whenever they come here to the state of Texas, they all say the same thing, and that is they did not get here sooner.
Well, as an economic developer, that kind of makes you want to run through a wall to do it. So well done, TX EDC, for that. So we're going to start off to kind of introduce you all to the crowd in your own words. We'd love to hear exactly what you guys are doing from your organization's perspective and how you all work with businesses in Texas and even amongst the 3 of you together. Let's start with that. So, Gabriella?
Can you hear me? Okay. Well, first of all, thanks so much, Mike, for the opportunity to be here today. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you. As Mike said, Gabriella Perticchiti, I'm Vice President at Texas Association of Business. I work very closely with my 2 panelists, so I was thrilled for the opportunity to be able to join them here today. But for those of you who are not familiar with Texas Association of Business, or TAB as we like to call it, we are the State Chamber of Commerce, and we represent over 1,500 businesses of all sizes, from all industries, from every area of the state. We also represent over 200 local chambers of commerce. So our primary purpose is to really bring these businesses and communities together and funnel up their voice to the legislature, to the governor's office, and really advocate for a strong pro-business environment here in Texas to ensure that our state remains the very best place to start, grow, and relocate a business.
Yes, good afternoon. Thanks for having us. I'm Tony Bennett, President and CEO of the Texas Association of Manufacturers. We have about 500 member companies scattered across our great state. All of them are manufacturers. We represent about 24 major industry sectors such as aerospace, automotive, pharmaceutical, petrochemical, semiconductors, you name it. If Texas makes it, we're likely representing the sector. We primarily deal with things that directly hit the bottom line of manufacturing to make sure that they are successful in our state, and that would be taxes and economic development. Of course, it would be regulation from environmental to the Railroad Commission to the Public Utility Commission. We're very big and pretty much specialize on industrial electricity issues. Half of our power that the state grid makes goes to manufacturing and industry, 50% of the load of our Texas grid. And then transportation, tort reform, and all those things. So glad to be here and look forward to the conversation.
All right, well, I'm next up. Can you hear me? I guess it's going to turn on eventually.
Is it on? You want to use mine?
Let me put up. There you go. Testing 1, 2, 3. All right, it's on. We're delighted to be here today. It's going to be an exciting panel. And so, as Mike had mentioned, we get excited about economic development in this state. And so I'm delighted to be here with this panel. I want to do a couple of things that are very important. I want to thank Mike for the opportunity as well. Mike and your chairman were with us at the governor's our Christmas reception, so we appreciate you guys being there. I saw Judge over here and was sharing with him a story before they actually bought Gills. He actually was in my office years ago talking about the Mansky roll and how we get those over to the state capitol and the like. And so a long-standing relationship with small business. And who would have known at that point he would end up being the judge here in this particular area. Harold Strong, see him out in the audience. Star Park and the work that they're doing has actually been in our office as well. And so we have the opportunity to market Texas. We get out there and we talk about our great state of Texas, and we have a great business climate in this state. But a company, when they're making the decisions, those that are here and those that want to be here, they're going to land in a particular area. And so the rubber meets the road at the local level. And so groups like the partnership here and the work that Mike and his team does makes all the difference in the world. When they talk about coming to Texas, they're going to want to come to a particular city or community, and we can't do that without the support of all of our investors, and they're an investor in our group. We market the state of Texas both domestically and internationally to make sure that companies know about Texas. We can't assume that they do, and so we want to get the word out to make sure nationwide and worldwide folks know about the great state of Texas, and we get to do that work with our partners with the Texas Association of Manufacturers and Glenn Hammer and Gabriella and the TAB team as well. But delighted to be here and look forward to the conversation.
Thank you. So Aaron, we're going to stick with you. So you've been a part of this extended economic development win streak Texas has been on for really almost since the beginning of this streak with your service under Governor Perry. You talk often about a secret sauce, and I would love for you to tell everybody what that secret sauce is that gives Texas such an advantage in economic development.
And thanks, Mike, for the question. It basically, we often talk about secret sauce in Texas, and there are a lot of secret sauces. I was noticing Lewis, when he was presenting, he kept talking about the slowdown or whatever. And Gabriella and I were saying, well, it's not slowing down in Texas at all. And he kept saying that we're at the top. Yeah, you can clap to that. It's not slowing down. It's some exciting things happening here in our state. And they don't want to give us the credit sometimes, but Texas is doing some phenomenal things around here. But it's the partnerships that we have. And so I talk about quite often our success is when we bring together the worlds of workforce, economic development, and education. Workforce, economic development, and education. And President, thanks for having us here on your campus as well. I had a niece that recently graduated and was reminded when I was looking at students in bathing suits and swimming trunks that there's a tradition here after graduation. And so I didn't remember that. But workforce, economic development, and education, when you bring those together, anytime we're discussing, that's our secret sauce. That's why we're so successful here in Texas, because we have those relationships, we have those partnerships, and that's what gets the deal done at the end of the day. If you have workforce, you have economic development that's happening, but you don't have the workforce, they're not coming here. You need an educated or skilled workforce in order for things to happen. A lot of members of Tony's organization are manufacturers that are here. If they're going to come into our state, we have to have the workforce. And so some of our challenges are making sure that we don't become a victim of our own success, that we're so successful that we can't keep up with it. And so the opportunity with our legislative session to look at water, to look at energy, to look at all these things that are there to make sure that we're in a position to not only grow our communities, but actually keep the ones that we have here as well. And so at the end of the day, whenever you're discussing, whenever Mike's working on projects, workforce, economic development, and education. I know Paul Fletcher, I don't know if Paul's here today, but he runs the Workforce Solutions Office for this particular region. All of those groups coming together is what gets us down the road in order for us to be successful as well. So I was looking at someone that looks like Rodney in the audience or so, but that is Rodney in the audience. And so the partnerships and those opportunities allow us to move further in our state. And as the video showed, you see a lot of individuals coming together to make a difference, and we do that through the relationships that we have.
Again, we're so lucky from your perspective. Adriana Cruz, running the Economic Development Tourism, obviously an alumni of the partnership prior to her departure here. So we're lucky to have her up there. And obviously Governor Abbott's support, carrying on with the groundwork Governor Perry laid for that, all really helpful. But then there's the legislature. And so I don't have any questions on the executive branch, but I do have some questions on the legislative branch. So I'm going to go to Gabrielle and Tony on this. We have all this support, we have momentum. How do we keep it? What is the legislature? Some bills are filed, some have not been, and we start next week, right? So legislature, what are they doing, or what do we hope? What do you hope they're going to do this session to keep that momentum?
Y'all want me to go first?
Tony, you have all the experience. You have all the experience.
We have to get a speaker first.
Yes.
Once we do that, I think things will fall in line relatively quickly. But there is a big speakers race going on right now. Next week, hopefully that will be resolved. I've never seen it go past, the first week. So once that happens, we'll be ready to go. As far as the Texas Association of Manufacturers is concerned, probably the top economic development bill is going to be the research and development tax incentive. We did that originally in 2013, a few years after the Texas franchise tax was put into law. We didn't do, the franchise tax didn't have an R&D incentive. And everybody knows to have the proper kind of growth and to equip advanced manufacturing in this state, you have to have research and development and innovation going on in our great state. And we do, we know we do. But other states have incentives that are far and away better than ours in this particular area. R&D is critical. It is the gateway to manufacturing investment. With the artificial intelligence coming in faster and faster and becoming more of a part of the manufacturing process, from the supply chain to warehousing to production to quality control. AI is going to be throughout all of those segments of the manufacturing process, and the service industry as well. I mean, not to leave them out, but I represent manufacturing. So that's just an example. And the competition globally for advanced manufacturing is enormous. Texas today has 4% of the U.S. expenditures on R&D. I believe California has close to 36% of the expenditures. So you look at that alone and you go, no wonder they're Silicon Valley and we're the Silicon Hills, but we got a long way to go. And the silicon wafer was created, invented in Dallas, Texas. So, that's just an example. But, today we have a 5% incentive here in Texas. California has a 15% incentive. Arizona has a 15% incentive. Most other states have a 10% incentive. China, anybody want to guess what China has? 200%. They pay you to innovate, and for good reason. So that's the big ticket. There are a lot, but we're still working on industrial electricity. We're still trying to get our grid balanced. By that I mean with all the fantastic renewable energy we've got coming into the state, we still don't have that middle transition completed, where there's battery storage is not sufficient enough to be scalable and priced right to load extra electrons on batteries and let them carry us over on a storm like Uri or Elliott. So we still need natural gas peaking plants. We still need nuclear, and hopefully it's small modular nuclear, which is the new coming thing. So that's going to be hot. Water is our biggest problem right now, our biggest challenge. Everybody knows that. And so that's going to be a big deal for TAM. A dedicated water fund is what we would like to see the state do. I could go on, but I don't want to take all the thunder, so.
Absolutely. Well, agree with everything that Tony said. And I just want to reiterate what we saw on our amazing video that Aaron so kindly shared with us, one of my favorite videos, by the way. But Texas is the 8th largest economy in the world. Everybody knows we are a global economic powerhouse, but it's important to remember that didn't happen by accident. It's the result of strong leadership at the top in Governor Abbott and Adriana Cruz and others, but it's also the result of very thoughtful policymaking. So we know we have an opportunity here at this next session to make great strides in ensuring that we can maintain that position of leadership and expand our position in the global economy. So I think it's really important that the business community, that local communities really stay engaged this session. There's a lot on the table. The things that Tony mentioned, we are also going to be strongly engaged in. Those R&D tax credits are going to be crucial. And it's, a little bit of a complicated issue, not something that everyone is super familiar with, especially, and even some of the legislators. So I think it's going to be really important for them to hear from the community about the impacts that could have directly to industries here and local communities. And Tony and I, and a group called Texans for Innovation, we've been working behind the scenes on this effort for the last year. We have a really great study that we're looking forward to releasing soon that's going to have some great economic impact numbers that we can really take to the legislature to advocate with. So encourage you all to stay engaged on that. The water fund, also very important. Water is infrastructure, and infrastructure is economic development. We need water, we need more of it in our communities, but also for industries. And we need to be able to be a place that industries can rely on to have a reliable water supply. And we also need to make sure our communities have the water that they need in order to thrive and support the new people coming to their communities. So we will be very focused on that this session. We'll take any money we can get. A dedicated stream, no pun intended, would be great, but we'll see what happens. But looking forward to advocating for that this session. A couple other things I'll just touch on really quickly, and then I'll hand it back to you, Mike. But AI, as Tony also mentioned, it's the hot topic right now. It's coming quickly. And Texas really has the opportunity to lead in this space. The rest of the country is kind of all over the place with their regulations and kind of looking to Texas to set the tone here. So at TAB, we're trying to be very thoughtful about what our support looks like. Megan Morrow on our team leads our Tech Means Business Coalition. She's amazing. That coalition is a very strong voice at the Capitol. We've been working closely with Chairman Capriglione on his package, kind of working through some things there. But at the end of the day, whatever the community brings forward, I think he will listen to. So if you're not involved in any way there, you will be impacted by AI probably more than you realize. So I strongly encourage you to get involved. So I think that's my closing message in terms of the legislature. Don't sit down. Please stay engaged with these groups and others. Mike and I talk frequently. He's been really helpful in kind of understanding the needs of this community, so you can always funnel through him, but don't sit this one out. It's going to be an important session.
Tony, just one last thing we spoke about on the pre-call for this is workforce funding and higher ed. Is there anything from your membership to look out for during the session on those things? Or Aaron, any of you can jump in on that.
Workforce is a big deal. We spend a lot of time and money on coordinating with everybody involved around the state because we've got a huge talent pipeline gap. Should be no surprise to anybody of all skills. And so we're always asking the legislature to put more money into every kind of workforce skills, career development programs, And most of the time, the legislature's been extremely cooperative with that. We don't have to sell it too hard. It's always a matter of everybody's asking for $1 billion here and $1 billion there, and pretty soon you're talking about real money. So we've got lots of initiatives going on there. We work very closely with the tri-agency. That would be the TEA, the TWC, and the Higher Ed Board. And fortunately, we get to work with them, all three of them, sometimes simultaneously on Zoom, and talking about how do we address the millions of worker shortage over the next 10 years of folks that we need to operate our plants and to upskill folks that have been there for a decade or two or three and are not quite ready to do the AI thing, but need to be upskilled so that they will be ready and that they can be technologically skilled to enter the next few decades and retire well and stay there. So it's a big deal, and we spend a lot of time with that.
Workforce is very important. As a former commissioner representing employers, Dale Robertson's in the room here. Dale used to run the Skills Development Fund program in Brooklyn's here as well, but Dale ran that program on the workforce side for about 20 years or so, so very familiar. And as Sonia had mentioned, our legislative body has been very generous in funding those programs, and there's a very need for those. When I talked about that secret sauce, workforce economic development in education, I always say, couple that with elected leadership who gets it, and we're well on our way to success. Without elected leadership being involved, those things don't happen. And so in Texas, we're blessed with great leadership. The governor leading and the individuals behind that allow us to go forward. We have programs that are put in place, the water issues that are being discussed, all these things that they're talking about. Last session, they made inroads towards that, and so we want to say thank you for that. We're looking at just doing even more as we move forward. On the energy side, those things are being addressed as well, but Gabriella said it, TAB, the Texas Association of Business, the elected officials listen to business. They really listen to what our employers are wanting and what our employers need, and so if they don't hear about it, then we can't do much about it. And so I want to overstate the fact of getting involved, letting these individuals know what's on the mind, because when we get there, they want to do the right thing. And that's how Texas comes out. They're here for 6 months most of the time. Sometimes there are special sessions, but 6 months is what we do to make it happen. And then our companies our employers have that regulatory climate that's predictable. They don't have to worry about anything over the next 2 years because it's already put in place. And so your voice matters. And these organizations that are here have members of their group that make a difference. I see Frost that's here. They're a member of our corporation as well. And again, it's all coming together to really be in a position to make a difference. But on the workforce side, we appreciate what they're doing, and the state works hand in hand, Adriana and her team, with the Workforce Commission to make things happen.
Well, we're so lucky to have, again, Texas State as the core of that here in San Marcos and the region. But we supported TSTC coming to the corridor last session. We're excited to see that go land in the Seguin, New Braunfels area. And then Lockhart is here in the room as well, and having brought ACC and district in Lockhart, to have that in addition to the ACC and Kyle is going to do a lot for our workforce development. I'm really excited to see that development in Caldwell County as we move forward. So the last part of this is, what are we looking to do to maintain incentives and improve upon them so Texas can continue to compete? You know, incentives are kind of a necessary evil in some ways. People don't like them, but everyone's doing them. We can't be a state that doesn't when Georgia or New York is writing $1 billion check to a company to move up there. Not that that's happened to us in this region at all. And so what are we doing? We lost 313, and now we have the jetty that needs, Gabrielle, we've spoken at length about that, the improvements needed. So what are we looking at with incentives this session to improve? And then even more importantly, keep what we have, keeping that local control with our cities and our counties with Chapter 380s and 381s or Chapter 312s. What's on the docket for that this session?
Yeah, there was a threat that 380 and 381 were going to get messed with 2 years ago. That fortunately did not happen. A lot of behind-the-scenes maneuvering to keep those from getting messed up because we knew that 403, the jetty bill, House Bill 5, was not through the, hadn't made it to the guillotine yet. And we did finally get the 403 jetty bill out. We've had our first major announcement with Bell Helicopter up in Fort Worth and Amarillo. That's going to be a great expansion. They have their new rototilt Army chopper that is fantastic, and that program did ensure that they would be ready for that. Applications are somewhat down from where they should be. Maybe that has a lot to do with the late rash of 313 applications that came in 2 years ago before it expired. A little bit of that, I think, is probably what happened there. But there are some things that we might need to tweak to make sure that we're competitive. Quite frankly, when Louisiana saw the program that Texas put out 2 years ago, House Bill 5, they immediately adjusted theirs. The Governor Landry did by executive order to make it easier. Over there, you don't have to guarantee any jobs. But Louisiana knows if you build a petrochemical plant, you're going to have jobs. Everybody knows that. You're going to have thousands of construction jobs, thousands of FTEs, and thousands of contract full-time jobs. So, some of this is just gamemanship, but Louisiana is very hungry, and we compete a lot with them on a lot of projects.
No, you're exactly right, Tony. And I think, as Mike mentioned, jetty improvements have definitely been in discussion. We've talked recently on that. TAB has really tried to engage with communities across the state to kind of understand what those experiences have been, and we're compiling all of that information, and we are sharing it directly with the governor's office so that they have a good understanding, because really the best ideas come from the community. Best intentions can be made, but you have to see how it plays out, and that's kind of where we've been over the last year. So I think likely to see some fixes there. If you are in that process at all or have been experiencing anything throughout that process, please feel free to reach out to folks like Mike, myself, these gentlemen here, and we'll try to make sure that feedback is heard. But I think the most important takeaway when it comes to incentives in general is just to make sure that the business community and policymakers are continuing to stay in conversation about these things. It's really important that in order to maintain our status as an economic leader, that we have incentives that are adaptable and flexible to the needs of communities and industry. So hope to see more of that this next session. I think, as Tony said, some steps were taken last session, but certainly more that can be done there. So I do anticipate seeing some things this session.
Yeah, and on the incentive side in Texas, we don't lead with incentives. Anytime we're recruiting, we don't dangle a carrot about, we'll give you the money, we'll come. We're very conservative in that approach, and I recognize that it's our taxpayer dollars in that regard. The programs that we have put in place, the Skills Development Fund, you quite often hear about programs being utilized for recruiting businesses to the state, but that program is one for retaining businesses, making sure it's actually both a retention program and that means it's time for us to finish, but it's actually meant for retention and the recruitment of businesses as well. But I'll go back to it. Our elected officials have been very supportive of our efforts to do economic development in the state through those programs. The organizations that are here are the ones feeding them that information. That information that they're feeding comes from our employers in this room, and that's how that works. And so the more you're advocating or talking, these individuals are in a position to advocate for those things to make sure that at the end of the day, our employers in Texas are able to do business. We want to make sure that we cut bureaucratic processes, that we make sure that you're in a business to do business. Governor Abbott always talks about us operating at the speed of business. He makes reference to that plant that Elon Musk built, where it took about 18 months to do that thing. And he said if we were in California, it may have taken about 2 years or so. It was a time frame that was really phenomenal in terms of permitting that and getting it done. But that's because we're listening to industry and actually not only listening, but putting action behind it to make that happen. But on the incentive side, I think we're going to be fine, but we can't assume that. We have to get in there and talk about it, advocate for it, because we don't want to be in a position where we go, oops, we made a mistake. Ohio, you saw the billboards. You guys may have had billboards out here. You see the commercials that they're running to the point where my wife recognizes those Ohio commercials, and it's I'm saying they're doing a good job when they're making reference to that. And so we can't rest on our laurels here in Texas. We want to make sure that we're getting it right and doing it right so that we stay ahead of that. Tony, you mentioned Louisiana. They're always watching what we're doing, and the other states are doing the same thing. And so we want to make sure that we're 2 or 3 steps ahead while they're still catching up.
Thank you. So just to wrap up, what is one thing y'all are very excited to go talk about this session? If you had just what's going to get you there on Tuesday to be happy?
Energy. Energy is supporting Texas' all of the above and below approach to energy. We need every molecule on the grid that we can get. So we're really looking forward to supporting all energy industries here in Texas.
I would second that and just add water, energy and water. If you don't have that, you're not going to have manufacturing. And and really, for a city like San Marcos with a great university like this, and y'all are going to become, a high-level research university, this R&D bill, I'm asking you, please talk to your legislators and your senator and tell them we've got to have it. I mean, we cannot be left out there embarrassed that we don't have an R&D program in the great state of Texas. We should be the leader in advanced manufacturing. We're number 1 in semiconductors, thankfully, and trying to make sure that nobody surpasses us there. Other states have gotten some of these chip fund deals that the Biden administration did put out. Of course, Texas got several of them. So anyway, R&D, water, and electricity.
And my prayer is that we are able to convene those individuals to come together, as Gabriella mentioned, solar energy, water. Tony's mentioned water, but the different sources of energy that's out there, bringing those bodies together so that we collectively get there at the end of the day. That's where we want to go.
I'll throw in roads too as infrastructure. We'll keep that going. Well, thank you all for doing this. Yes, Aaron.
I'd be remiss if I didn't do this. We are delighted to be here. When we're traveling internationally, and I kind of talked about this, we talk about all that Texas has to offer, everything that Texas has to offer, but the rubber meets the road at the local level. And so having Mike on those trips, having individuals, economic development folks, having folks from these organizations on that trip, there are pictures of it right there, as a matter of fact. When we're in Asia on those trips, you see in a lot of different communities. It's not just this community, but it's Irving, it's Dallas, it's Marshall, Texas. All these guys are there. And so we're in Asia making a difference there. And then I don't know what that last picture is there, Mike, you're in that picture, but it's doing something.
That was the Korea House dinner.
Korea House dinner, okay. Yeah. So from that standpoint, but the ability to bring businesses to our state internationally, we need the support and appreciate the support of this organization being involved with us. Mick being at the governor's holiday reception allows third-party validation where it's not Mike talking, but it's the Mick, a businessman, chair of this board, basically whispering in the governor's ear or getting access that way, gets it for us at the end of the day. And so I want to say thank you for allowing Mike, this team, to be out there with us. We know you don't have to do that, but I want to stress the importance of having our local folks with us on those trips because again, we're talking Texas, and that's a good thing. We have a great business climate, but when they get to the local level, I can't promote this region the way that he promotes it from that standpoint and don't know what they have in that regard. And so I want to say thank you for that. And again, thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. I mean, the leadership right now that we have at the state is probably about the best it's ever been. And so it's very easy to support your organization, and thank you for, again, what you've done for economic development in your career, so thank you for that. So thank you for your time. Good luck in session. We hope to see you up there at the Capitol. And thank you all for coming. I want to thank again our corporate sponsors, La Cima, Hill & Wilkinson, and Frost Bank, and all of our supporting sponsors. And of course, we couldn't have done this without the Hayes Caldwell EDP staff. So staff, raise your hand. Yes, Lance, you too. They did a fantastic job. As far as you know, nothing went wrong. This was a great thing to do here at Texas State. Thank you, Texas State, for hosting us this time. I think we're going to keep it here moving forward. So thank you again. Stay dry, stay warm, and we'll see you around Hayes and Caldwell counties. One last announcement. For parking, please use your parking pass in the machines before you get in your car. Just pro tip. So again, machines before you get in your car. Take the flowers, please.